We are told to seek the light, to embrace the good, to cultivate our virtues and present a polished, acceptable self to the world. But what about the darkness? What about the parts of ourselves we hide, deny, or actively bury? What about the shadow? Welcome to the inner light. Today, we descend into the depths of the human psyche. Guided by the insights of Carl Gustav Jung, the world-famous Swiss psychologist, who dared to explore the hidden territories of the mind. We're not here for comforting platitudes or easy answers. We are here to confront a fundamental truth about ourselves, a truth that is often uncomfortable, unsettling, it's indelibly dark, the existence and power of the shadow. Jung's work, particularly his theories on symbolism as revealed in dreams, broke through the conventional understanding of the psyche. He didn't see the unconscious as merely a repository of repressed desires, as some before him had suggested. Instead, he viewed it as a world in itself, just as vital and real as our conscious ego, but infinitely wider and richer. And within this vast inner landscape lies a crucial, often feared element, the shadow. The sources tell us clearly, the shadow is the concept that plays a vital role in analytical psychology. Dr. Jung pointed out that the shadow cast by the conscious mind of the individual contains the hidden, repressed, and unfavorable aspects of the personality. This is the starting point of its darkness. It's where we put everything we don't want to see, everything society tells us is unacceptable. Our anger, our envy, our selfish desires, our capacity for cruelty, our fears, our shame. Think about it. From the moment we are children, we are taught what is good and what is bad. We learn to censor ourselves, to perform, to seek approval. We learn to modify our opinions to fit the room, to smile, to make others comfortable, to shrink our light so others won't feel small, to apologize for our boundaries. Every time we do this, a piece of our authentic self, particularly the aspects deemed undesirable, gets pushed down into the shadow. This creates internal fragmentation. But the sources also reveal a crucial, often overlooked aspect of the shadow. This darkness is not just the simple inverse of the conscious ego. Jung stated that just as the ego contains unfavorable and destructive attitudes, so the shadow has good qualities, normal instincts, and creative impulses. This is where the complexity, and perhaps a different kind of darkness, the unsettling nature of untapped potential emerges. The shadow isn't purely evil. It's simply everything the conscious ego has disowned. This can include powerful, vital forces, raw instincts, spontaneous creativity, genuine assertiveness, the capacity for authentic emotion, even things like healthy self-interest or the drive for power that, when repressed, become twisted and destructive. These are valuable, vital forces in the shadow that should be assimilated, not repressed. The ego and shadow, although separate, are inextricably linked together, much in the same way that thought and feeling are related to each other. Cannot truly know one without acknowledging the other. Trying to live entirely in the world of the conscious, rejecting communication with the unconscious, means binding yourself by the laws of conscious formal life. It means living a life that, while perhaps appearing logical on the surface, is based on assumed premises that may be deeply flawed, because they ignore a huge vital part of your being. Why is confronting this shadow so difficult? Why do people go to such lengths to avoid it? As the YouTube source quoting Jung puts it, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. The shadow is a part of that soul. Facing it means facing the uncomfortable truth about our own capacity for negativity, for imperfection, for the very things we judge in others. This resistance is deep. A dream discussed in one of the sources personifies resistance to the unconscious. As indignant people, influenced by collective opinion, this resistant side distrusts and rejects the bringing to life of psychic images from the unconscious. It argues with extroverted rational prejudices and statistical thinking, asking, but what if they begin dropping atom bombs on us? Psychological insight won't be much help then. This illustrates the fear that exploring the inner world is impractical, dangerous, or irrelevant in the face of external threats or conventional wisdom. Living purely from the conscious ego means being constrained. It's noted that for people who have far more ability than the average, for whom success was never hard, Restricting themselves to the normal is unbearable boredom, infernal sterility, and hopelessness. Many become neurotic precisely because they are only normal. Their deepest need is to lead abnormal lives, meaning lives that encompass more than the narrow confines of average consciousness. The YouTube source on powerful auras says that psychological projection involves projecting parts of the unconscious mind onto others. Most people prefer to deal with life by assigning their unresolved emotions to someone else. They project insecurity, anger, inadequacy, or fear outward so they don't have to face it internally. The shadow is a primary source of these projections. We see the nefarious aspects in our boss, our neighbor, a political figure, a different group of people, anyone but ourselves. It's the shadow at work, unseen and unacknowledged within, but wreaking havoc in our external relationships and the world around us. So, how do we confront this inner darkness? The path lies in bringing the unconscious into consciousness. This is the essence of Jungian analysis and the process he called individuation. Individuation is described as the process by which the conscious and the unconscious within an individual learn to know, respect, and accommodate one another. It's about becoming whole, integrated, calm, fertile, and happy when the process is complete, when the conscious and unconscious have learned to live at peace and to complement one another. This sounds noble, perhaps even uplifting. But the process itself, especially facing the shadow, is inherently dark and difficult. It's called deep shadow work. It means confronting what you've denied, forgiving what you've hidden, and starting to love parts of yourself you once hated. It involves examining your triggers, judgments, and emotional reactions. It's not a one-time event, but a lifelong maintenance. The sources speak of the obligation of the individuation process, often being felt as a burden. Achieving psychological maturity through individuation is an individual task, made difficult today by widespread conformity individuation section. This resonates with the idea that embracing our authentic selves, which includes acknowledging the shadow, puts us at odds with a world that often demands conformity. To face the shadow, the ego must be able to listen attentively and give itself, without any further design or purpose, to that inner urge toward growth. It must overcome pride and live out aspects that seem dark but may not be, which can require a heroic sacrifice. This is not about unleashing your inner demons without control. It's about integrating them, understanding them, and harnessing the vital energy they contain. If the unconscious, once in action, is left to itself, there is a risk that its contents will become overpowering or will manifest their negative, destructive side. Consciousness plays the decisive part, determining the meaning of the images and recognizing their significance. It's an interplay. The sources mention that Jung's contribution to psychotherapy was confined to cases where rational treatment wasn't enough. Many of his patients were not clinically neurotic, but suffered from the senselessness and emptiness of their lives, what he saw as the general neurosis of his time. They were socially well adapted, but found that normalization meant nothing to them. They were stuck. In such cases, he looked for hidden possibilities, turning to dreams as they at least present images pointing to something which is better than nothing. The images from the unconscious, whether in dreams or active imagination, are often not rational. The sources mention how dreams use an emotionally charged pictorial language, symbolic and indirect. Surrealist painters like Max Ernst were influenced by ideas of taking chance as a starting point for visionary painting. Going back to Leonardo da Vinci's idea of seeing forms in random splashes, this reflects an attempt to access something beyond conscious control, much like the unconscious images from the shadow. The sources highlight two modes of artistic creation, psychological and visionary. Psychological art deals with conscious experience, like love, crime, or society, things that are understandable. Visionary art, however, deals with material that is astonishing, confusing, and requires explanation. Material that reminds us of dreams, nighttime fears, and the dark recesses of the mind. This visionary mode often draws from the collective unconscious. This connects directly to the shadow, as it too taps into those deeper, often disturbing layers. Jung noted that in eclipses of consciousness, dreams, narcotic states, insanity, psychic products come to the surface that show primitive levels of development and can contain mythological themes clothed in modern dress. These manifestations are compensatory to the conscious attitude. If your conscious attitude is one-sided, perhaps overly positive or rational, the unconscious compensation, including the shadow, might appear particularly primitive or disturbing in an attempt to bring equilibrium. So, when you engage in shadow work, you are intentionally looking into those dark recesses. You are confronting the parts of yourself that appear unfavorable or nefarious. This is not about becoming evil. It's about integration. It's about acknowledging that the capacity for dark exists within you, and recognizing that the energy tied up in repressing it can be reclaimed. Remember, the shadow also holds normal instincts and creative impulses. Claiming these can be incredibly powerful. But this power comes at a cost, and this is where the dark theme of the channel aligns with the disturbing aspect of integration. The YouTube source on powerful auras explains this vividly. It suggests that when someone has integrated more of their unconscious material, what Jung called individuation, they exude a presence. This presence, this energy signature, is felt by others. And when that aura is powerful, it disturbs others. Why? Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're embodying something rare and deeply unsettling. Authenticity. You become a mirror, reflecting back to others what they are not confronting in themselves. To someone disconnected from their own truth, being around someone who lives their truth is agitating. Your authenticity invalidates their illusions. This is the discomforting truth. Doing the hard, dark work of facing your shadow doesn't necessarily make you universally loved or accepted. It makes you real. Reality, especially when others are living in illusion, is often disturbing. The responses are subtle: fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, overreacting, criticizing you for being too intense or too deep. Your energy challenges the norms, the unconscious power dynamics, without you even saying a word. You might be labeled too much, too spiritual, too intense, or too complicated. In reality, you're simply aligned, psyche's more integrated, your energy more unified. This creates resonance or dissonance in others, depending on how far along they are in their own individuation process. The strength for the difficult ethical decisions required to face the shadow and integrate it secretly stems from the self, the inner great man. The individuation process obliges you to expect constant interference with conscious plans. Conscious will is crossed by intentions that must be submitted to or considered. This underscores that facing the shadow isn't a linear, ego-driven task. It's a surrender to a deeper, sometimes chaotic, inner process. The YouTube source on a powerful aura emphasizes that you don't get it by superficial means. It comes through deep shadow work. As this healing unfolds, your aura stabilizes and strengthens, because you're no longer carrying chaotic, repressed energies. You've processed them. This transformation produces a radiant field of presence that people can feel, even if they don't understand it. The integrated self emits a coherence that feels powerful and magnetic, but also unsettling to those who haven't begun the same process. This reveals a profound philosophical implication. Jung's ideas, like keys, help to unlock hitherto unintelligible connections of facts, enabling us to penetrate deeper into the mystery of life. They lead to a more balanced, ethical, and wider conscious outlook. But this ethical outlook isn't necessarily one of conventional comfort. It's one that has faced the darkness and integrated it. It's an ethic born of struggle and discomfort, not naive optimism. Jung accepted the relativity of his own views, seeing every psychology as having the character of a subjective confession. He tried to free himself from unconscious assumptions about the world. He saw the play of opposites in all happening, deriving his idea of psychic energy from this concept. much like physical energy, involves a difference of potential. Instinct and spirit, for example, are mysterious forces he couldn't dismiss by explaining one in terms of the other. The shadow is perhaps the most potent example of this play of opposites within the psyche. It is the necessary counterpoint to the conscious ego. To deny the shadow is to deny a fundamental aspect of reality, both within and without. The psychological mode of creation, as discussed earlier, deals with understandable experiences. But visionary creation, tapping into the collective unconscious and its dark recesses, offers glimpses into chaos, into material that seems pathological or insane. Yet this material can hold a wealth of meaning comparable to the works of genius. This is the power hidden within the shadow, a source of profound insight and creative potential, not just negativity. For a dark philosophical channel, the shadow offers a potent lens. It forces us to question the nature of good and evil, not as external forces, but as internal potentials. It challenges the easy narrative of simply being good by highlighting the cost of repressing our inherent complexities. It suggests that true wholeness, true psychological maturity, isn't achieved by eliminating the dark parts, but by facing them, integrating them, and carrying that internal paradox. This act of integration can be deeply uncomfortable for others. Your internal peace reminds them of their inner war. Your stillness becomes a mirror to their restlessness. Your lack of reactivity confronts their addiction to stimulation and drama. You stop seeking external validation or clinging to outdated beliefs. If you validate yourself, you know your worth. You've walked through fire, survived solitude, and found peace without applause. This makes you deeply uncontrollable. When you don't seek approval, you become unpredictable. You break social norms. You cannot be guilt-tripped or manipulated. To people who rely on control or collective consensus for their identity, your independence is deeply disturbing. It dismantles the illusion that belonging requires obedience. Your energetic signature says, "I am not for sale." And in a world that commodifies everything, including identity and authenticity, that is terrifying. The path of individuation, which necessitates facing the shadow, is felt as a burden individuation section. It requires courage. As one of the sources notes, in a different context, when faced with profound spiritual distress, we must find meaning on the basis of fresh and unprejudiced experience. This is not a reckless adventure, but an effort inspired by deep spiritual distress to bring meaning once more into life. We cannot refuse our support to a serious venture which calls the whole of the personality into the field of action. If we oppose it, we are trying to suppress what is best in man, his daring and his aspiration. Facing the shadow is this daring aspiration. It's an internal civil war that was latent, brought into action. You must deal with it as best you can. There are no ready-made life philosophies, no recipe for living that suits all cases. Each of us carries his own life form, an indeterminable form which cannot be superseded by any other. Having a powerful aura, a state of energetic integration resulting from this internal work, isn't a performance or a prize. It's a responsibility. It requires intentional stewardship. Your aura is a mirror for others, showing them who they are because you are clearer. Having cleared your energetic field of noise, lies, and dependency. That kind of clarity is a tool for awakening, not a badge of honor. Using it for ego gain pollutes it. It exists not just for you, but through you. Protecting your energy field means establishing boundaries. A powerful aura makes you a magnet for others' pain, wounds, shadows, and projections. If you're not careful, you absorb energy that doesn't belong to you, leading to burnout and confusion. You must be a filter, not a sponge. Set clear emotional boundaries. Learn to say no without explanation, prioritizing solitude and your own peace. Jung made it clear that individuation is not people-pleasing. It's the commitment to be whole rather than liked. Your aura is precious and cannot be given indiscriminately, or it will lose its purity. Embrace your role as a catalyst, not a savior. People may be drawn to you, pour out their stories, cry in your presence, project their pain, or seek you as a lifeline. But you are not their solution, their guru, or their savior. You are a catalyst, a mirror, a vibrational shift. Jung wrote that each individual must take the journey into the unconscious alone. You can offer reflection, insight, support, but you cannot do the work for them. This journey into the shadow, this confrontation with the darkness within, is the necessary price of authenticity and wholeness. It's uncomfortable, it's challenging, and it fundamentally alters your relationship with yourself and the world. But according to Jungian thought, it is the only path to a truly integrated, meaningful life. It's why finding the inner meaning of life is more important than anything else, and why the process of individuation must be given priority. In the end, the shadow is not just a psychological concept. It's a philosophical challenge. It forces us to redefine strength not as the absence of weakness, but as the capacity to integrate it. It forces us to see light not as the absence of dark, but as something that shines most powerfully against a backdrop of acknowledged shadow. The task of integrating the shadow is ongoing. The more clear you become, the more subtle your blind spots. Keep confronting them. This is the demanding, often solitary work of becoming who you truly are. Thank you for joining us on this descent. What aspects of the shadow have you encountered in yourself or others? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this exploration resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to The Inner Light for more deep dives into the darker, richer aspects of philosophy and the human psyche.